Most people burn out because of some sort of self-worth issue. Either they don't believe they're fully worth the effort, they're worth the money, and they stay smaller. I think that burnout for especially purpose-driven women happens when they play small and they
Yeah.
don't dream big enough. And then their soul says it's not even worth the bother to achieve less than this.
Hi, and welcome to Don't Drink to Feed podcast. This podcast is all about you and all the courageous, driven women like you. We are here to inspire, to empower, to share, and to embrace one another. We will be talking with women from different backgrounds and careers about love, family, friendship, their wins and falls, and what it took for them to live the life they love. I am your host, Claudia Noriega-Bernstein, and I am so happy you're here today.
Hi, everyone. I have today Laura Cardwell. She is a transformative life and business coach, author, and a speaker that applies neuroscience, energy medicine, quantum concept, and human design into her coaching. Laura blends science and soul to guide women in realign with who they truly are. I'm super excited to have you here. Do you work with women? Because I do the same thing and it's so empowering to do that. And second of all, that you have this salad of different things that you use in your coaching. So I am super pumped about it and I want to welcome you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
So let's give the audience a little bit of background. So your life kind of fell apart when you were 19 years old. Can you please share a little bit about that time?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all have these kind of pivotal moments in our lives that change. And I think they happen in different decades and different things. For me, I've had several, but kind of in this particular path that sent me kind of down this road, this long and winding road. When I was 19, I had a medical experience in which I ended up having an out-of-body experience. I mean, it was basically my blood pressure was dropping. They were trying to keep me awake. And I was like, no, I'm going to just close my eyes and go. And I had this crazy experience of kind of floating above my body, seeing the room, seeing what was going on.
Oh.
And I knew in that time, I mean, I didn't have one of those experiences that was like, there was a golden light, and I didn't have any of those kind of things. But what I did have was this really incredibly deep sense of peace. And this kind of sense of warmth and just a knowing. I just had a knowing, that's the only way to really describe it, that I wasn't done yet, that it wasn't time for me to go, that I had work to do. And it was almost like I was being given a choice. I could go if I wanted to, but also we need you there. We need this work, whatever it was. And so I did. I kind of went back to my body. I kind of woke up from that place. And I think my early childhood, like many people, had little T traumas, had big T traumas. And I was not on a great path up until that moment. I was very insecure. I had a lot of self-worth issues. I really struggled with relationship. I had a kind of a rough relationship with my dad. And so I was just kind of not in a great place. Undiagnosed ADD, all that kind of, and I like to say it was just kind of a holy hot mess. My high school years were, and what I knew coming back into my body in that moment was I was here on purpose and I had a role to play, and that B, I would never be that person again. I understood it. It was like it healed. It's like I got back in and it was everything about that was different. And I got back in with a new sense of beingness that wasn't there before. And it became the stabilizer of basically the next 30 years of my life. So.
Wow. And you talk about purpose sometimes, and the reason why I'm going there, not only because you mentioned it, but because I work a lot with women that have a conditioning. And sometimes when we have this conditioning, we don't really know our purpose. We assume our purpose is A, B, or C because our mom, our aunt, our teacher, our mentor told us, and we just run with it. So yeah. What is purpose for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because I think it is the root of the work. For me, it's the work that I do with women. It's like returning to purpose. But when I say that, what I really mean when I say purpose is first, who am I here to be? Our purpose is really our capital P purpose. I say it's my highest self-expression. As at that level, it's not really about what you're doing. And often when we talk about purpose culturally, we've been conditioned to believe that purpose is how we serve, what we do, the roles we play. Like my purpose is to be a mom. My purpose is, but usually that's externalized. It's like I'm here to serve somebody else.
Mhm.
And I personally think that first, actually, purpose is who we are here to be, our highest expression. And then from there, it's why we be that. If there's it actually, the neurology matches that. We need to stabilize our neurology with that deeper meaning, the why. And
Right.
then when I know who I am here to be and why I'm here, then I can serve and play the roles, but I'm no longer playing roles looking to be validated for the role. I'm doing it from a place of inner peace and not looking externally for something to satisfy me. So it's kind of multi-layered.
Yeah, and it's so on point because that's exactly what we do. We assume those roles and we just don't even question them. We
Yeah.
don't get curious about it. You're the stronger one, you're the funnier one, you're the responsible one, and oh, this is who I am. Thank you for telling me. And in my process of healing, I had to unbecome because
Mhm.
I was somebody that I didn't even feel comfortable being
Yeah.
just because I was assuming that those were my roles. And it's so interesting that you put the purpose and the roles in the same sentence because it has so much to do one with the other one. And
Yeah.
we don't acknowledge that and we give ourselves grace also. Like, yeah, I mean, you make those choices thinking that those were the best choices for you based on the tools and experience and beliefs that you had at the moment. But guess what? You get to make a U-turn. You get to change those roles. You get to be somebody that you actually feel that you are meant to be on purpose.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I usually say when I get on a roll, I'm kind of like, you're here on purpose, for purpose, through purpose, with purpose. It's like you can put any preposition in front of it and it's true, right? And I also think that as we age, especially into midlife, I think we are naturally driven to seek it. And I think when we're younger, again, I'm going to speak to kind of that external validation, especially in the culture that we have. We're kind of raised to just chase the validations, chase the gold stars, chase the raises, chase the corporate ladder if that's what you're doing, or chase your children, literally. Like, but everything's kind of externalized when we're younger. And then I think it's part of our natural progression, maybe our soul story, to kind of wake up in midlife and say, wait a minute,
I'm not
I
chasing
know there's,
anymore.
I'm not chasing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I've lost who I am. A lot of my clients, their main thing that they're coming to me and saying is, I think I've lost who I am. And I just remind them that you can't lose who you are, but it can get covered up in all the shoulds and the conditionings and the roles that you're playing. But you're there. You're there.
Right.
You're in
Yeah.
there. And we just have to unmask her. We have to decondition her way back out.
Right. You have to unbecome. That's what you
Yeah,
have to
you
do.
have to unbecome.
Have to unbecome. And one of the things that you talk about is human design and how I wrote it down because I didn't want to mess it up. I'm a foreigner, so sometimes that happens to me. There are archetypes that define our lives. I did my human design and I actually have it here because I wanted to show it to you.
Claudia, how much time do we have? If you tell me what your human design is, we may be going down the rabbit
No,
hole.
I am, oh my goodness, what am I? I have my numbers here, 6'2", the confrontation, signature alignment feeling is satisfaction, self-theme is frustration, whatever. So
Yeah.
I define, and it's so funny, and I want you to explain to my audience what human design is in case they don't know this, but I gotta tell you, I have 3 daughters. We're all manifestors, and there are two of them that are manifestor generators. The other two are just manifestors, and you can totally see it. It's like
Yes.
the way I speak to my husband and the way my daughter speak to her husband. Sometimes we're in a table and we look at each other, or they look at each other like, "I'm marrying your wife."
Human design, I actually resisted human design for years and years and years in my practice. I just felt when I first came across it, like you just read off all those things, it felt like I had to know everything to know anything. I wasn't really drawn to it at first. I mean, there was something about it that kept pinging me, but at first I just kind of kept brushing it away, but it wouldn't leave me alone. It kept coming back. And I was like, okay, finally one day I was like, okay, I will learn some things and just see. And that really actually kind of filled in a blank for me. My master's, I've been working on my master's and my doctorate, and some of what I've studied was perception, the way that the link between how we perceive the world and our actual reality. And so the neurology of perception, per se. And human design actually helped me really fill in a gap because I understood that innately we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that human experience has a mental field. We have thoughts, we have electricity, we have neurochemistry, and then that creates movement of electricity, that's emotions, and then that creates sensations in the body, and that's feelings, and then we physically show up. I innately knew that. But what I also understood was that perception was the filter layer between those things. There was this understanding that we're this light being, and then it goes through the filters of our perceptions. And those perceptions then lead to what we think and what we feel and what we emote and all of those things.
It's like a filter.
It's like a filter. And we're made of many, 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 many filters. Some we were given, some come from our DNA, some we picked up in early childhood, right? That's all the conditioning that we can talk about. But what human design helped me see was that really that level is the level of the archetype. It's the level of the unconscious or supramental, kind of beyond collections of thoughts and beliefs that we embody as perception. And human design is an archetypal system. When we look at archetypes, we're really talking about collective unconscious belief systems. And if people don't know what archetypes are, there's a lot of, like, Joseph Campbell does a lot of work. He did a lot of work with archetypes, but you can even think of, like, mythology is based in archetypes. It's based in these kind of, and astrology is based in archetypes, and every personality quiz that we take is based in archetypes, right? And so there is an unconscious supramental level of perception that's guiding those things. And so when human design came along, I realized, when I really sat down with it, I realized I had this map. Human design gave us this map. It's a blend of archetypal systems that include the astrology, it includes the chakra system, it includes the Kabbalah, and it includes the I Ching. And so all of that together in one major system. And it was like, when I finally understood it, I realized that what I had in my hand was somebody's energetic thumbprint to who they're here to be and become. It was a map to their highest potential and where they were going to get stuck and where they were going to have challenges and the unfolding of their life story and how it would unfold for them. It's not necessarily, I don't believe in archetypes as like, you are this, that I'm a Libra, like, let's say in astrology, I'm a Libra. We say I am statements, and those kind of block us in a little bit, right? Like, we are the whole chart. We are all of the archetypes of astrology. We are, like, we lead with certain patterns. And so
I agree 100% with you, what you're saying right now. I don't think that's part of why my show is called Don't Shrink to Fit. I don't think we have to fit in one box. We go through life and we can change that, and we can lean more into one or lean less into the other one. And that depends on a lot of things that are happening in our life.
Yeah, totally. I think so too. I think that boxes help us survive. They're really beautiful things for a survival mechanism, but they're not usually great for thriving. And usually when we're ready to thrive, we will unbox, right? Like you said, unboxing is kind of similar to unbecoming. Like, I'm not putting myself in that box anymore. And I feel the same about archetypes. They're here, especially human design. It's here to give you a map of how you're meant to be in the world, right? There is a who-ness to it, but it's really who at your highest expression. And then if you're living from your highest expression, which is your purpose, then how do I interact with the world around me? One of the things I really loved when I got into human design was it wasn't an archetypal system that was only to tell you about you. One of the things that I get frustrated with when we look at archetypes is where, like, we get so self-centered with it. Like, I only want to learn about me, and then I want to take all that knowledge and I want to learn about you and diagnose you and know you. But it's it's not relational. And it's not how I be in relationship with other people, but human design is. The depth of human design is really about first I need to become who I'm meant to be, but really the depth of human design is, then how do I be that in relationship to myself, to other people, to money, to my career, to my kids? And then as we become our true purpose, how do I serve? How do I serve humanity for something more than just a paycheck?
And also the grief of losing some people in your life, because that comes with that. The minute that you find out who you are and what's your value, and you stop allowing things and you start setting boundaries, there's going to be some shedding of people that no longer like you like they used to like you. And you have to be ready for that too.
Yeah. The blend of the different modalities that you named about my work when you first started is, I actually started in applied neurology, which is really about nervous system regulation and working with the pathways of the brain. That's where I started all of my energy work. And one of the things I think that's been a real advantage to me with that is that when we are on a transformational path, when we are unboxing and becoming, we actually have to kind of take a step and then regulate our nervous system to that place.
Right.
And then we have to regulate our nervous system to the place we want to go because change is scary. Then we
Mhm.
can take another step and regulate to that place. And then we can regulate to the possible growth. And then we can take another step. One of the things that I have found over the years working with clients is if you push somebody through their transformation faster than their nervous system can regulate, they will go back to old patterns.
Well,
It's a mess. And that's part of our responsibility as guides with them, is to not push them faster than their nervous system can go. And that's just part of being a good guide, means meeting people exactly where they are and being
yeah.
one page ahead of them. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect and I have it figured all out. It just means that I did this yesterday, so I can do it with you today.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah.
And kind of hold yourself, because sometimes, I don't know if this happened to you, that you see an incredible potential in a client and her resistant to make the next step. So she keeps falling back in the old patterns that are comfortable. They're not ideal for her. She's not happy. She has a lot of stress and all of the above, yet she's not ready to make the next step. And you're seeing the potential and you know, and you believe in that potential, then you're like, why don't you believe me?
Right. But as a practitioner or a coach, probably one of the most frustrating things is
Yes,
watching someone stay in an old pattern and
yes,
not tell them how to be in a new pattern because they can't hear you there. But I also think that that's why tools like human design are so helpful. They say when you're doing transformational work, it takes about 7 years for you to fully embody a new change. I mean, it takes like 21 days mentally to change a pathway, but
Mhm.
for it to filter down to where it literally changes how our cells show up, it takes about 7 years. And I think that gives us some grace for the process. It's like I always say the first 21 days is the aha moment, the first realization, the insight of like,
Mhm.
whoa, that mind blowing. And I always love that moment with my clients when they discover something from that for
Yeah,
themselves. But then I'm like, okay, but look, in order for you to truly live that in your life, it's going to take 7 years of a commitment to this aha. And then in the process, it starts to become like, I joke, it's like, wait a minute. Oh, it's like the aha starts to sink in and you start to have
right,
lived experiences. It doesn't mean it takes 7 years for it to change your life. It just means it takes 7 years for it to like fully embody. And
right.
the old story is completely gone.
It's like it takes 7 years for the roots to really go deeper, so you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
stumble anymore. You
Yeah.
you are grounded now. You know
Yeah.
who you are now, and now you are embracing that new version of yourself as a permanent version.
Yes. Yeah. It's like knowing you can't rush a plant growing to its full expression, but the full expression is coming. Kind
Right.
of the same thing. They know it's coming and then we know what it looks like when it grows up.
And
And we just have to let it grow.
right. And the funny thing is that, let's talk about being stuck or being burned out. They know that they're feeling that way, but until kind of like that butterfly saying that I don't remember, until the pain is of staying in one place is bigger than the fear that you have to make a change, you won't make that change.
Yes.
Right. So those
Yeah.
burned out people, and we're going to talk a little more about your book later, but you talk in your book about burnout, and that is because they make the choice to stay in the same place.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple things that happen. Burnout is something obviously I could talk about for days. And
Right.
that's kind of one of my main things that I focus on. And that's because there's many different types of burnout. We can be physically burnout. And that's what most people associate with burnout, is the kind of physical tired and the I'm waking up at night. I can't fall asleep very easily. They talk about the physical symptoms, but we can also be emotionally burnt out. We can be mentally burned out. They
Yeah.
usually all go together. If you're physically burned out, you're probably also emotionally and
That's
mentally
your
burned
last
out.
symptom.
Yeah, it's like,
Pretty much your last symptom.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
already being burned out
exactly.
emotionally, mentally. Your
Yeah,
body is telling you, hello, you are burned out.
exactly. You are. But you can also be spiritually burnt out. And I have found that the neurology matches kind of this thought process, is that if we're really going to heal burnout fully, one, it takes a ton of rest. It just takes rest. Most of us don't know how to rest well. We're still
Mhm.
doing even when we're resting. It takes two, knowing your human design and knowing how you're meant to be energetically in the world, because we're not all programmed to do 9 to 5 jobs, 24/7, kind of go, go, go. That's not true. Of the 5 types, 3 of them are not meant to move through the world that way. So
Right.
that's the next thing. And then the most important thing is that we burn out from chasing that externalized experience. If it's not stabilized with that internal why I'm here, if it's not stabilized with that purpose, it will create that spiritual level of burnout eventually. So what we have to learn to do is learn to rest, learn to follow the way that we're meant to move energetically in the world and really listen to our system, listen to our bodies. And then we have to find that deeper why. Why am I here? And let that why start to stabilize the burnout. I mean, if we don't care why we're here, then why are we doing it?
That's the internal seeking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the internal seeking. So I think that those are kind of where purpose and burnout play in the same realm. And that's a lot what the book talks about, is that you can't really heal burnout fully without something that says, but why, this deeper meaning. And that is literally because it's the same neurological pathway. It's meant to send us on a deeper seeking meaning. I think we're programmed. That's why we like to take those personality those quizzes so much, right? Because we're programmed to want to know more about who we're here to be. And so
to get curious. What and that would be, for example, a tool that you would give to a client when they feel burned out or stuck, like go do a quiz, for example. That would be a good tool.
I usually use their chart. I tend to go into their chart and look at for the different ways that the chart can be configured, but especially the energy types. Burnout tends to live in very specific patterns when we look at human design. And usually it's generally can be boiled down to either you're trying to generate energy you don't actually have access to, and you're going on pure willpower and not divine willpower, right? You're kind of pushing through. And that's an adrenalized to sacral energy thing in human design. Or most people burn out because of some sort of self-worth issue. Either they don't believe they're fully worth the effort, they're worth the money, and they stay smaller. I think that burnout for especially purpose-driven women happens when they play small and they don't dream big enough. And then their soul says it's not even worth the bother to achieve less than this.
Their enoughness is not there. Yeah, totally. And they feel like, who am I to want this? Not even I want this, is who am I to want this? And right there, they're stopping right there. So the possibilities are zero because you're already canceling yourself. You're not an option for that you want.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of stories and statistics about I am not a man hater or a man basher, but there is a truth in like men are conditioned to just go for it. And there's nothing that really, they don't hear the story about not being enough their whole lives most of the time. And so they will apply for that job, whether or not they're qualified. But a woman will not. That's the statistics say that. It's like learning to go for it means trusting that you're worth it. And women just don't believe we're worth it. It's part of our work in the world. Is like, I mean, we want to believe we're worth it.
It's how we're wired.
Yeah.
You see a man going or showing up late in a meeting, they say hi, sit down, and go on with the meeting. Yeah. You see a woman going there late for a meeting, and the woman is like, I'm so sorry, my babysitter, my car broke down, I have a problem, I have to go to school to see my kid. Like, why do we feel we need to explain ourselves? Why don't we feel that our presence is enough to be in that table? We don't have to justify our presence. Men don't think that way. I mean, I don't have sons, I only have daughters, and since they're little, I always talk about this with them. Like, you don't have to explain yourself. You know, an explanation is the justification of a loser. You don't explain. You have your valid reason. And if those reasons are valid for you, enough.
Yes.
When you were there at that time, you couldn't do it earlier. End of the story. But you could. But we are conditioned and we're wired to think that we have to explain ourselves. And we need to say 10 reasons why we're late, so then we can justify our tardiness.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that part of that is because we know scientifically that trauma gets passed down through the genetics. You know, we know that now, right? And I think that there's something in the genetic passing down of having been treated like less than at the table for even if we're not treated less than now, we're still healing the trauma of the generations that were. And that's not that many generations back that we had any rights, right? So it's like some of those are still in my lifetime. It's like So, of course, we're still healing the self-worth or the confidence to show up in the room without apologies wound, because we've been definitely our parents' generation and their parents' generation, it was different. They weren't as valued for those in boardroom moments. And so I think it's also, part of our purpose as this generation is healing some of the wounding around value, what it means to be valuable. And one of the things that I love about quantum human design, which is Karen Curry Parker's work, and the way that she interprets the whole thing, is she says, you're valuable because you are a once in a lifetime cosmic event. And that's it. Nothing else makes you valuable. Like, it doesn't mean that, yeah, that's enough. You don't need to prove your value in any other way. But I think we're still deconditioning, unboxing, and becoming fully valuable.
And with that, we have different concepts for different things. And the reason why I'm saying that is because oftentimes we confuse happiness with joy.
Oh, yeah, I say that all the time. Yes.
Totally different. I remember one time, and I have talked about this briefly before in another episode, I went to an emotional intelligence seminar, and we had to come up with 3 things for a contract that we had to do with ourselves. And those were things that we needed to remind ourselves about ourselves. This was like, I don't know, 18, 19 years ago. I have grown a lot since then. So I went there and I gave the facilitator 2. I said, I am trusting and confident. And that was things that I needed to remind myself that I was trusting and confident. I had a big issue trusting, and I needed to remind myself that I was confident. So the facilitator comes to me and she says, you need to give me 3. And I said, no, I'm not going to give you 3 because I don't have 3. But make the story short, he tried to kick me out of the seminar because I'm not following the rules, whatever. And I'm like fighting because I have the right, because I pay very righteous. And that was my other version. And so he looked at me and he says, who took your joy? And he dismantled me in that moment. My knees bent. I felt like I was being seen for the first time naked, like he could see through me. And it took me, I started crying, obviously. It was a whole mess. I really understood a lot of things about me. But it took me a minute to realize that nobody has taken my joy, that I was given my joy. And that took me through a journey of finding my worth in myself and why I had allowed that to happen and who I give it to and how many other times I give my joy away. And with that, my power. And I also came to the understanding that my joy wasn't my happiness, because even though I didn't have joy for so many years, I did have many happy moments. And I know, because I heard you talk about this, you also think that joy and happiness are 2 different things.
Yeah, I think they play together often, but I think it's a dangerous thing to confuse them as the same thing, because it can keep us same pathway, where I will just stay with the same pathway. That pathway of joy is a state of being. When we look at emotions are movement of energy in our field, right? So when we feel something like anger, it's something that moves energy in our system. And happiness itself is an emotion. It moves. It's a movement of energy. It's tied to fire energy and 5 elements work, in Chinese 5 elements work. And it's like, you think of happiness like a laugh. It bubbles up, it's there, and then it goes away, right? Like, and so there's this movement. You can feel the movement of energy, right? Like, but joy, and we want those, but you cannot collect enough moments of happiness and make them be joy. That it will never be. It is a byproduct of joy, but it isn't something that you can reverse engineer into joy, right? Joy comes from a more rooted, heart-centered state of being that comes directly from knowing who you really are, knowing that inner North Star, knowing that you have a higher self, that you're connected to something much bigger. And joy is a way of moving through the world, not necessarily the way you're reacting to the world, which is what emotions are, right? So it's understanding the subtle difference that keeps, because when we talk about achievements, people often chase happiness and it always will feel empty. You don't get that deep-seated content satisfaction when you're chasing happiness. You get it when you express joy and allow happiness to be the result of that. And that's it's different in our neurology, and it's different in our energy systems. It shows up different in the body. You can be joyful in very, very difficult moments, but it's very hard to be happy in a difficult moment. You know, like you can have laughter. That's not what I mean, but it's like joy is a state of being that you bring to everything that you're doing. It's like grace and compassion and kindness.
It's like
They're more of a rooted, grounded, centered emotion. They don't move as much. They become who we are. They're less affected by the external, right? And they're broadcasts from the internal.
And it's a birthright.
And it's a birthright. You are born with it. You are born to be curious and compassionate and joyful and loving. Those are things that no one has the right to take away from you, and they actually can't. Like, you can react to them and mask your own joy, right? So you can become angry and stay angry, and your anger will mask your own joy. But until you heal that anger and you heal the grief that's really below the anger, the joy didn't go anywhere. It had a blanket over it. You're still a light being. You're just wearing different lampshades at that point.
And what is productive joy?
I think when we are really in a state of productive joy, it is that we are living that embodied purpose, right? We radiate that purpose. And when we're radiating our purpose, it also means we're in deep alignment with our true self. And when we're in deep alignment with our true self, we are resonating at a frequency with the universe in which we are being called to serve. And so we now bring that joy into service of others. And so we produce products, we produce relationships, but the production now is coming from this alignment and resonance and less from a chasing kind of energy.
We attract.
Yeah, we attract.
When I teach manifestation, that's exactly what I teach them. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. And when you are, when you finish that I am, and you really believe that you are, that's when you start attracting. You become a magnet. And everything that is aligned for you in that same frequency is going to come to you. You're not going to have to go look for it. So the deal that you were looking for is going to happen. The relationship that you were looking for is going to come to you. Things are starting to come to you because you are that.
Yeah. And I think that we're still deeply trying to understand those concepts. And I think for a while, we kind of got lost in the mental of manifestation, the affirmation side of if I say it, it exists. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because our words are creations. They are powers of creation. However, our words are coming from these bodies that we have, and these bodies that we have are 90 to 95% old story. If you're in neurology work, we call it psychological reversals. But if it's like, if you're in your head saying, I want the perfect relationship, and I'm visualizing it and I'm doing all the things, but your body is saying, I don't believe I'm worth that relationship, you're not going to have it, because you are attracting who you be. And I think that's why that conversation about, it's not just the law of attraction, it's the law of resonance. Like you just said, what am I resonating? Who am I? When we see what happens with waveforms, your waveform in the universe has to match the frequency of what you're calling in.
It's like a radio. If you tune it, you're not gonna get your music. So you know
exactly
how high is your energy, so you can get that frequency and start listening to the music you want.
Absolutely. And then I want to say to that, it's hard to stay on the same radio station all the time. I also want to name that. And so sometimes we can get into a pattern of like a little bit of shaming, like, oh, I'm having a really hard time holding that high vibration. And in some ways, holding that high vibration, we have to understand that we can't hold it all the time. We're going to accidentally change the radio station. We're going to, and the work, it's spirituality is a practice. Resonance is a practice. It's like, I'm going to fall because we breathe in and we breathe out, because we expand and we contract. There's no way to only have one direction. The work is to notice when I've gone into, now I'm living from the old story, and bring yourself back up with that higher.
You're not in FM anymore.
But you're like totally on a different. And it's like the work is not to be perfect, because we can get into that in spirituality. It's like, I need to be perfect all the time or my life will be a mess. And it's like, no, your life's going to be a mess even if you are in perfect resonance all the time, because we're messy humans, because we have real feelings. They do real things.
And you get to give yourself grace. And you need to pause, and you need to say, okay, I'm not ready to face that right now. So I'm going to retrieve, and I'm going to take care of myself. And I'm going to first align myself with what I want, and then I'm going to try again, or I'm going to continue trying, or whatever it is, your path in that moment. But I think it's so important to give yourself grace. And I remember when I was younger, I was pushing myself through so much, and my body was showing up in different ways. I got anorexic, then I got cancer. And it's like I started having physical reaction to my pushing through. And it wasn't until I understood how my energy and my body and my brain all together work that I didn't get sick again. It was like, okay, wait a minute, this is a message here, so I need to listen.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I was trying to point to. So thank you for saying it that way. It's like I'm trying to say to people is we can also get caught up in trying to push to be our most spiritual self, right? But noticing that's even a place where we push, and it's not about pushing. There's going to be times when it's like it just kind of has to do what it needs to do and breathe in and out. And we're going to have really great expanded moments, and we're going to have moments where we totally got washed off the deck of our own ship. And the work is, I often tell people having practices, somatic practices, meditation practices, breathwork practices, they're not about the good days. They're not about when you're in expansion. Affirmations are not about when you're in the best place. Prayer is not about, well, prayer can be for whatever, but it's like, but
also you have to be aligned.
Yeah. And you have to know that those practices you're doing them every day so that when you are in contraction, when you are maybe falling off and you're in a lower vibration and you've gone there and it's telling the old story, those practices are what bring you back. They're there to bring you back, but you can't just jump on them when you're in the low. You have to use them, that it's attuning your body. It's that cohesion moment of like entrainment. That's the word I'm trying to think of. It's like you use the essential oil every day so that when you need it, you're already entrained to the vibration of it. You use the meditation every day so that when you need it, you're entrained to be able to get back there.
You can tap into it. Right.
You can tap into it. Yeah, that's what the practices are for. And then you can also use meditation to create and visualize and do all those things. I don't mean it doesn't do that as well. I just mean it's also your ticket back when somebody says, well,
right.
Yeah, it's a tool. They're all tools, but they require that we practice. You can't use a tool unless you practice it.
Yes.
Like, so
yeah, I agree 100%. And at the beginning, it's going to be hard because you're going to have to change some habits. But I think that people that sometimes don't understand what the purpose or the benefit, even though those are two different words, but is to having a coach. Because when you work with somebody, that person can bring you back to those practices. If not, you're going to drift away. I had a client that was doing incredible. We finished the mastermind and she's like, I think I'm good. 6 months later, she called me and she goes, I'm in step 1 again. And she felt very defeated and everything. And yeah, I give her a lot of empathy and compassion. And I explained to her, it's not going to happen in 3 months. To you that you did the mastermind, but it's a continue working with yourself, changing your habits, changing a lot of things in your life that are going to be now aligned with this version of yourself that you want to become. It's not going to happen in 3 months. And even if you have a box full of tools, if you don't know how to use those tools, you just have a box full of tools. That's all you have. So I always love to interview coaches because, first of all, I have no envy or jealousy or competition with anyone. I think in this world, we all have a space and we all attract the right people to ourselves. But it's always so yummy to me to talk to people like you that are in the same place as me and believe in the same thing, because the conversation gets so much juicier. But I do want to talk about your book because I think that in your book, you touch a lot of the things that we have talked about today. And I want to remind my audience about my newsletter. Every week, I send a newsletter about the episode that I am sharing, and I give the link of the book if my guest has a book. So in the week that we have in this interview, I'm going to have a link. And if you want to be part of the newsletter, you can subscribe. It's in the description of the show. But I want to talk about your book, Unstuck Yourself, because you're focusing and apply neuroscience, human design, and the power of being your true self. So tell me why you wrote this book, how the idea came up, and what people can get out of it.
Absolutely. Yes, let me talk about the book. So I co-authored this book with Megan O'Malley. She's a friend of mine. And then we have a company together and, we've done some work together. And really this book came out of one, we were kind of talking about healing burnout through the process of finding purpose. That's what we were talking about. And magically resonance, we were given a book deal based on that. And so we really got to dive in, and and take this body of work that we've been working on for years and bring it into book form. Just kind of the bones of it. It does address human design. It gives the people their design type and how the type plays out, especially for burnout and discovering your true self in there. And then it talks about, like, we have a framework called grind, where we talk about kind of all that conditioning of the different isms and the different ways in which we get conditioned away from being our type, and where all those masks we wear and where they come from. And then we present what's called the Prosper framework, which are kind of those 7 core qualities or pillars to becoming your highest self. It's kind of what you need in order to take the journey back, the tools that you need. And then the last part of the book, we have a process that we created called the integrative somatic experience. That's a deconditioning tool, and then also a reconditioning tool. So it helps you decondition the old story, but also anchor in the new. And so it walks you through that entire process, and it gives you tools. We wanted to have a book that was really practical, that people were using it. You know, if you only have 1 second and you feel the story come up, what do you do? And it's like, but if you have a little bit longer, how can you actually start to rewrite that programming? And if you have a lot of time, maybe 45 minutes, to do the whole process, to deconditioning something and anchor in something new. So we wanted to put it all in there because we believe, or at least for me, I won't really directly speak for Megan, but I feel like we're kind of at a critical moment in humanity of, we cannot keep going believing that we're separate from each other, that we don't have a deeper meaning, that we don't have a higher purpose, being separated from our spirituality because of conditionings that come from different stories and narratives and religions and cultures. I think there's a major spiritual awakening going on for humankind. And that spiritual awakening is not necessarily religious. It's just the reminder that you are something more than this physical life. That goes back to me being 19 and kind of that moment of like, wait, I am here for something so much bigger. It took me a long time to figure it out after that, by the way. It's like that's a whole nother book, but it's like, I do believe we're kind of at a moment in history where there's a mass awakening going on. And we need the tools to live. We need to understand who we're here to be, and we need the tools to do that. And then we need the toolbox and how to create lives around that. And that's really what I hope people get out of the book, is that they have the whole toolbox in their hand.
Wow. I can't wait to read it. And I agree with you 100%. I think we are all a piece of a masterpiece. We're not individual pieces that are floating around. We are here to be part of the collective. And if we don't embrace that in spite of our differences and say, you know what, let's find the commonality here. Let's see what we have that can make us a whole together instead of picking on, I don't like this and I don't like that. This world would be much better right now, and it would be incredibly much better to the future generations. And I have a daughter that got married a year and a half ago. She's trying to have a baby, and I am terrified when I think about what this kid is going to come to see and to experience. And like, you go to a restaurant, you see a family having dinner and 2 of the kids are in their tablets. I'm like, what happened with the communication? What happened with how was your day? What did you learn? Tell me about it. They are learning to be humans through a screen. They are not emulating their parents anymore. You can even go to a mom and say, well, you know, you had some influence over your kid, because you didn't.
You didn't. That's why I think it's so important. I think you're right. I think you can get locked into the fear of like, oh my God, what's it going to be like? And I know it, I have it. And then I remember that it's so much bigger than even them. When I get really scared in those moments of what the potential looks like, I remember, it's my responsibility then to show up different right now. Like that's
exactly.
I have to lead by example first, right? Like I have to do it. If I want it to be different than for them, I have to do it different for me. And I have to lead that way. I think we also have to trust that spirit is so much bigger than what we see at the moment. And there's such a bigger plan going, not to bypass, but to help us have the hope we need to show up differently in the moment. Because it's up to us right now. Those kids need us to teach our kids to show up different so that they can teach their kids to show up different. It's up to us.
Yeah. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 19-year-old?
I think that actually, maybe the answer to that question is that was me showing up back in time to my 19-year-old. Because when I went out of my body, I was a mess. I just wasn't present to my life. I was really struggling. And I think probably what really happened in that space in between was the bigger me said, hey, baby doll, I see you, I love you, and you do not have to live like this. You do not have to choose this. And so I think I would say the exact same thing again, that you get to go back, and you get to have a long and winding road, and things are not going to be always easy, and the becoming isn't going to just pop in and you're some guru when you get here. I don't try to be a guru, but you're going to get there and you're going to have impact for other people. And that's what you're here for. And even if that impact is only on one other person, it was worth it. That's my belief, is every day with my clients, if I only have impact on one person today, then my day, that was what I was here for.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Laura. It was such a pleasure having you here. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I know we could probably talk for days. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful.
Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.